Chapter 17. I was startled awake by the sound of a loud, angry engine shattering the quiet of the night. What could that be? You'd think living by the expressway in the middle of a city, I'd get used to loud noises, but they still bothered me. The engine roared again. This was really loud. So loud that I could almost feel the ground shaking underneath me. It sounded like a truck, an enormous truck just outside our tent. "I can't sleep with all that racket," Brent said, his voice barely audible over the rumbling outside. I wasn't surprised that he was awake. How could anybody sleep through that noise? "It sounds awfully close," Ashley said, poking her head out from under her blanket. "It'll go away," Brent said. "Just roll over and go back to sleep. It's not time to get up yet." He was right. There was barely any light coming in through the nylon of the tent, so it was still before sunrise. Sunrise happened around 6 in the morning. I wondered what time it was, but there was no way I could make out the dial of my watch in the dim light. Suddenly, the sound of the engine got even louder, and there was an explosion, a crash, the sound of metal against metal. All of us sat bolt upright. "What the hell was that?" Brent exclaimed. Before anybody could think to answer, or even think about anything, the noise of the engine was punctuated by the sounds of men yelling and feet running on gravel. The whole tent was bathed in bright light. "Get out!" Brett screamed. I threw off my blanket and scrambled for my shoes as Brent fumbled with the zipper of the tent. The flap opened up, and an even brighter light flooded in. I looked away from the glare. Brent popped through the opening, and Ashley scurried out on all fours. I grabbed my shoes and crawled out after them. I got to my feet, and then I froze in place, stunned by the scene. There were men. Dozens of men. They were all wearing uniforms. Police. No, more like security guards. And each man was carrying a big flashlight, the beam dancing and jumping as they walked and ran. Moving down the street was a gigantic bulldozer, its lights blazing. It inched along the road. I looked at it past the fence. There was a gaping hole where the gate had stood, and the fence was mangled. That was the sound, the bulldozer crashing through the locked gate in the fence. The security guards, in pairs, were stopping at each tent or shack. They pounded on those dwellings that had doors, hammered them with their big flashlights. Tents were unzipped, the flaps ripped open, and the flashlights aimed inside. "Get out! Everybody get the hell out!" Weary, confused, tired, stoned, stunned, hungover, half-dressed people crawled out of their tents or shacks and into the dim, early morning light. The sun was just starting to push its way over the horizon. The people stood in complete silence, watching the scene unfolding before them like it was a terrible dream, or a bad drug experience, or just part of the delusions that normally haunted them. It was none of those. It was real, terrible and real. The men, the security men, started herding people forward. I felt a sense of overwhelming panic. I was desperate. I had to get away. I scanned the scene around me, searching for a way to escape. Past the line of security guards sweeping people along was another line of men, standing at the fences, beams of their flashlights marking their spots. There was no way out. I moved forward, staying very close to Brent, hoping that somehow he could save me, that he could protect me. "What's happening?" I gasped. "Isn't it obvious?" he answered. "Not to me. Are they going to hurt us?" "Not if we don't give them a chance. Don't argue with anybody. Don't push even if they push you, and keep your mouth shut," he said. "But what are they doing? Why are they here? What's going to—" "Can I have your attention?" A loud, amplified, metallic voice boomed out. Each word echoed back to us off the buildings before flying out over the lake and sinking beneath the waves. I looked around, trying to search out the source of the voice. There he was, a man standing on the back of a flatbed truck, just outside the fence, a bullhorn in his hand. There was already a crowd of people by the truck, and were being herded in that direction to join them. Just over to my side, a man spun around and pushed one of the security guards. Before he could even move, two more security guards materialized, knocked him down, and pinned him to the ground beneath their feet and knees. Almost as quickly, a pair of police officers were on top of the scene. Thank goodness. They ordered the security guards off the man. They helped the poor man to his feet, and then they spun him around and started to handcuff him. What were they doing? He was the one who was attacked, and they were arresting him? The 2 police officers led him away, one holding each arm. "I am here this morning," the bullhorn man shouted, "as the legal representative of Helping Hands Hardware Incorporated, the owner of this property." He was standing high above everybody on the back of his truck. At his side were 2 large, burly security men, flashlights in hand. Another half-dozen guards stood by the truck between him and the crowd. "I am notifying all of you that you are illegally trespassing on private property. You are hereby ordered to leave said property." "This is our land!" screamed out a voice, cutting him off. It was the mayor. He pushed his way to the front of the crowd until he was stopped from going any farther by the security guards. "And I order you and your thugs to leave immediately," the mayor yelled. The crowd, which had been sullen and sleepy and silent, suddenly sprang to life and cheered for the mayor. "This," the bullhorn man blared out, "is the legal property of Helping Hands Hardware Incorporated, and we have a court order issued yesterday to clear the property of all possessions and people." He held a piece of paper above his head, like somehow waving a few words would be enough to make us leave. "Stay close to me in case something starts," Brent said, "and if it does start, you and Ashley make sure you keep your arms and hands wrapped around your heads for protection." "Protection from what?" "From getting your brains splattered all over the ground. Why do you think all those guards have those big flashlights? Those are clubs. They're going to use to bust heads open if people resist," he explained. "And you can expect some flying rocks and bricks to be coming in the other direction. No telling who they might hit." "We don't believe in you or your courts or your orders," the mayor screamed. "I'm here. I'm the law." "You are trespassing," the bullhorn man yelled back. "You are on our property illegally, and you are ordered to leave within the hour." "And if we don't leave?" the mayor demanded. "What are you going to do then?" "We hope you will leave cooperatively," came the amplified answer. "We ain't doing anything cooperatively," the mayor screamed back. "So what are you going to do?" "You have 1 hour to gather your things and go. If you remain, then we'll have no choice but to execute the eviction notice by force." "You think you can evict us?" the mayor yelled. He was sounding angrier with each passing word. "You and what army?" It was obvious to me, even me, what army. The dozens and dozens of security guards who surrounded us. I watched now as each of those security guards held his flashlight in front of him, not for light, but as a weapon. It was like Brent had said, they were going to use them as clubs. And I knew that practically everybody in the crowd had a weapon on them, and that men like the mayor were prepared to use them. I could see people puffing themselves up, ready for a fight, and others, like me, trying to shrink away, bracing for what was going to come. "We have to get out of here," I hissed at Brent. "We have to get away from—" "I want everybody to just stop," yelled out a voice. A large police officer, stripes on his shoulders, moved past us into the front of the crowd. The security guard stepped to the side as he climbed up on the truck and took a position beside the bullhorn man. He was big, bigger than the bullhorn man, bigger than either of the 2 security guards who flanked him. "I'm Sergeant Malik, and my men and I were sent to see to the safety of the people. All the people," he said. His voice was so big and booming that he didn't need the bullhorn to be heard. "There will not, I repeat, not be any use of excessive force." He turned and directly faced the bullhorn man, who looked away. "These people have a duty to be These people do have a duly executed court document," the sergeant continued. "They have the right to ask you to leave this property." "Leave it to go where?" a woman asked in a desperate voice. "Behind you, you'll notice that there are buses." I turned around. There were 4 big yellow school buses sitting on the road just outside the fence. "These buses are for your transportation. They will bring you and your possessions to one of a number of shelters where you can—" "I ain't going to no shelter," yelled the mayor. "Me neither," screamed another. "I'd rather sleep under a bridge than go to a stinking shelter," came another voice. The sergeant held up his hands to silence the crowd. That is your choice, and maybe I can't blame you. You are free to go elsewhere for the night if you choose. The city and Helping Hands Hardware have also set up an emergency fund. Those of you who are eligible can receive money to spend the next week in a motel selected by social services until you can find other accommodations. There was grumbling from the crowd as people discussed what they just heard amongst themselves. You think you and a few officers and a bunch of rent-a-cops can move us? The mayor asked. There is close to 200 of us. You gonna arrest us all? The crowd started to yell and scream support again. I saw 2 men right in front of us reach into their pockets and pull out their knives. Another man bent down and picked up a broken off piece of a cinder block. He's right, the sergeant yelled, and the crowd suddenly got a lot quieter, as though they were all shocked by his reply. We can't arrest all of you, he continued. Just some. Just those who are the leaders. Those are people we're going to charge with instigating a riot. And we're going to check everybody here and see if anybody has an outstanding warrant or charges, and we're going to arrest those people too. Even the mumbling in the crowd now stopped. I don't want to arrest anybody, the sergeant continued. That's why I'm giving everybody a chance to just move on. The bullhorn man stepped forward and brought the bullhorn up to his mouth. We have also provided a meal for you. Just outside the fence, you will see a large catering truck, the shiny silver vehicle. Once you have packed up your possessions, you are welcome to have some breakfast. Despite everything, I burst out laughing. Ashley and Brent stared at me like I was crazy. I just couldn't help myself. It was like we were some sort of stupid animals and we could be tricked into leaving our homes by the promise of a little bit of food. We need people to start gathering up their things, the bullhorn man said. In 1 hour, the construction crew will be arriving to start preparing the site. In 1 hour. Take as much time as you need, the sergeant called out. If you need a few hours, take it. And remember, we're here to make sure that everybody follows the law. Everybody. I knew he wasn't just talking to us, but to the bullhorn man and to the security guards as well. We were going to have to leave. What choice did we have? What choice did we ever have? I sat on the ground, my back against the bridge abutment. A paper plate, now half emptied of the gigantic second helping of bacon and eggs I'd gotten, was balanced on my lap. It had been almost 2 hours since they'd first arrived, and the last few stragglers were being herded out the gate. In the end, most were leaving quietly. A few, the mayor and some men like him, had put up some resistance, but even they realized there was no point in fighting. A couple of men, drunk or stoned, were too far out of it to either cooperate or resist, and they were taken away. One woman, ranting and raving and screaming about the CIA and aliens, was removed as well. They were going to take her to the hospital. Somebody should have taken her there a long time ago. A second bulldozer and 3 large trucks filled with construction workers had appeared on the scene. Many of the workers were busy with the fence that surrounded the property. They were bending holes and fixing the gate, smashed open by the bulldozer first thing that morning. In addition, they were stringing up more barbed wire along the top of the tall fence. It was obvious that once we were all on the outside, they were going to try to keep us from getting back in. There was a loud crash, and a puff of dirt and dust flew up into the air. Brent jumped to his feet to see the source of the sound. It's the mayor's place, he said. They just ran it over. It's gone, flattened by the bulldozer. Ashley got to her feet to look as well. I didn't get up. I closed my eyes. I didn't want to see. Home, sweet home. Oh, sorry. We're on a sort of time jump. Home, sweet home, Brent said as he kicked in the board that was blocking the window. He reached down and wiggled it until the nails came free, and he pulled it off the window frame, tossing it across the alley. He reached into his pack and pulled something out. It was a flashlight. A long, black flashlight, like the ones all those security guards had. Do you like it? Brent asked. I found it this morning. I don't even know where it came from, he said, and started to laugh. He aimed the light into the building, and the powerful beam cut through the deep darkness, creating a path for us to follow. He climbed in through the window, and I followed. It was awkward to maneuver through the small opening with my pack still on my back. It was filled with all my things, including 2 blankets, a small pillow, things we'd accumulated at Tent Town. The tent was now gone. Brent had sold it for $35 to a couple of guys whose shack had been flattened by the bulldozers. They said there was a spot down by the river where they were going to set up. We wished them luck and pocketed the money. Some of our tent town neighbors were in motels tonight, courtesy of social services. But we figured they'd have taken one look at us and started checking against their list of runaways, and we didn't need that. Better to just slip away quietly and make our own plans, as usual. Have we been here before? Ashley asked as we moved slowly across the floor of the deserted warehouse. I've been here before. Maybe before your time, he said. There's a good place to sleep in the corner. It's sort of protected and nobody comes here. At least not very often, so we won't be bothered. I hadn't even thought about that. In Tent Town we were safe. There were rules. There was the mayor. Here we were on our own again. I reached down and felt the knife in my pocket. Maybe I really did need to have a weapon. This place smells really bad, Ashley said. Squats don't usually have air fresheners. You just got used to the fresh air coming off the lake. It was nice. Maybe we shouldn't have sold our tent, I suggested. A tent is no good unless you have a place to pitch it. A safe place, Brent said. Some people said they were going to try to set up another tent town, make it even bigger and call it Tent City, I said. When that happens, maybe we can buy another tent and... If that happens, Brent said, cutting me off. It's not going to be for a long time, and by that time, we'll be in our apartment. I like it when you talk that way. Like there's no doubt, I said. There is no doubt. It's happening, he said, and it's happening because of you. Me? We've all been working and saving. But it was your idea, and without that idea, nothing would have happened. He's right, Dana, Ashley agreed. So remember, this is just temporary. We'll only be here or someplace else for a few more nights, a week, maybe 2 at most. I'd rather it was someplace else, Ashley said. This place really does stink. I didn't think any squat smelled nice, but I had to agree. There was a thick, foul stench in the air. You've both been spoiled, Brent said. You'd have a head cold, or you smelled it too, Ashley countered. Quit complaining. It's through this way. Brent pushed open a door, and we were greeted by a wave of foul-smelling odor that practically threw me backwards. Whoa! Now even I smell it, Brent agreed. What could possibly smell that bad? I asked. Brent started to shine a flashlight around the room. Slowly, the beam revealed garbage and bits of wood and broken concrete. Then it stopped moving. There was something on the floor in the corner. It was a lump, a mound, a person-sized object beneath an old tattered blanket. Somebody's here, I whispered. How could he stand the smell? Hello? Brent called out. There was no answer, no movement. Must be sleeping, Brent said. Or stoned, Ashley added. Hello! Brent yelled, and I practically jumped off the ground, startled by his voice. There was no response. Brent edged forward, and I wanted to stay put or even run in the opposite direction, but I found myself moving with him, unable to resist, maybe too frightened to separate from him even a few feet. Hello? Brent called. Are you okay, buddy? Still no response. We continued to move forward. It was definitely a man, a person, lying beneath the blankets right at our feet. The smell was overpowering. My eyes started to tear up. Hey, buddy, Brent said. No answer. Brent reached out a foot and gently nudged the man. Nothing. He put his foot against the man's side and pushed. The man rolled over, and the light revealed a rotting, insect-infested face with empty eye sockets staring up at us. I screamed and felt myself starting to faint, and then Brent's strong arms wrapped around me, and I stumbled away.